Houston, we have a problem. And it isn't in Houston. It's in the elk woods. Well, more specifically, it's online with all of these blogs and articles and debates about what's the best elk cartridge. Is there such a thing? Well, we're going to dive into it and see if we can't figure it out on this episode of Ron Spomer Outdoors. Hey, welcome everyone. Once again, we thank our patrons for helping us out. Really appreciate it, guys. You make all of this possible. And we appreciate all of you who give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We keep chugging along with your help. You can catch us on ronspomeroutdoors.com for articles on this kind of stuff too, if you really want to take your time, look at the numbers and dive into it. Today, we're going to try to give you some information on the world's best elk cartridge. If you want to have some fun, do a search online. World's best elk cartridges. Oh my gosh. You will come up with so many choices. The 5 best, the 7 best, the 12 best, the 10 best, the 20 best. You might as well make it the 100 best because they're all in there somewhere. I did that myself after being asked by an online magazine to write that article. Not what is the best, but what are the best elk cartridges? And is it 5 or 7? You can pick whatever number you want. But what's amazing about this process is how many different best 10s there are. Some people will have similar cartridges in there or the same, and others will miss what someone else thought was the finest. And it really runs the gamut, and I've got a lot of them right here, so we'll talk about a little bit of those. And then I want to talk about the approach I took to this topic because, as most of us know, there is no best. You might say there's a best cartridge for killing an elk flat every time, and that might be the 50 BMG, but who's going to carry that around in the elk woods? So there's obviously going to be some kind of a balance, and that balance has to be the ability to take an elk pretty cleanly, big animal, want a big bullet, right? But also the ability of the hunter to shoot accurately. If you're afraid of the rifle or if it weighs so much you can't steady it accurately or something, there's all sorts of considerations, guys. And one of the big ones for me, and I think most people who have hunted elk more than once, is getting to the elk. And the more weight you drag around, the less chance you are to get to that elk. I know there are places that are relatively flat, relatively low, and elk hunting is relatively easy, especially on private ranches. But boy, in most places you're in the mountains and you're going up and deep and down in the canyons and the hellholes or into the thick brush where you're lucky to get a 30-yard shot at max. So gosh, no wonder there's so many different perfect elk cartridges. So let's keep all of that in mind when we go through these lists. Online, I found a list from Mr. Towsley. Now, Bryce Towsley is a knowledgeable gunsmith, a heck of a good hunter, and a heck of a good writer, and I trust what he has to say, but he's got sort of Magnumitis. This is Mr. Big, he's like the modern Elmer Keith. He wants a big cartridge, a big bullet, a big thump. Man, he's proud of what he can take for recoil. More power to him. So he's going to be leaning towards the heavier options out there. And his list included the .338 Win Mag, the .338 Remington Ultra Magnum, the .300 Win Mag, the .300 Weatherby Mag, smart move there. Some people discount one or the other. .300 Remington Ultra Magnum, why not? If you're going with the .300 Win Mag, the Rum is more powerful than that. The .35 Whelen, a good, practical, reasonable choice. I like that. .375 H&H. It's always been in there for the big guys. Elmer Keith really liked that one. Big thumper, obviously, but yeah, can't argue with it. Big cartridge for a big animal. Do you want to pack it around? Do you want to shoot it? Do you want to pay for it? All those considerations. So Bryce wisely threw in the .375 Ruger, and why not? The .375 Ruger does the same thing the .375 H&H does for power, for velocity, but it does it in a shorter 30-06 length case. A little bit less recoil too. Nice. .358 Norma. That's one we don't see very often, and I think it is right here. Where are you, Norma? Are this you? Let's check him out. Oh, that's it. .358 Norma. I only see that a couple times a year. I have a hard time recognizing it. A big Magnum with a .35. So if you've got a .35 Whelen, which is 30-06 necked up, the 35 caliber. Why not go to the 358 Magnum style for more horsepower on your elk? Tousley did that. Then finally he went with his baby, his pet, the 358 Tousley. It's the Remington Ultra Magnum Tousley. He thought, you know, they're missing one with that 300 rum. It's a great big long full-length Magnum action cartridge, bigger in diameter than the belted Magnums. And well, here's one right here, the 300 style. And they necked it all the way up to 375, but they skipped the 35. And Bryce has always had a sweet spot for the 35, so he necked it up to 35 and called it the Ultra Mag Tousley. Pretty nice option. Another hard hitter. Okay, so going down a little bit in power, we step to an older gentleman, some guy named, I think it's Zumbo. At any rate, Mr. Zumbo's been around the block a few times, and he started off hunting elk with a 30-06 until Jaeger, you know, the X15 breaking the sound barrier Jaeger, yeah, that guy was hunting with Zumbo and laughed at his 30-06 and said, why don't you get yourself a real rifle? Colonel Jaeger gave Zumbo a bigger cartridge, and I think it was a 300 Weatherby Magnum. Gave him the rifle. Then Zumbo started coming around to using something a little bigger. But you got to hand it to good old Jim. He had been hunting elk for a lot of years with the 30-06 and doing just fine. And he knew, I think, what all of us need to know about taking elk. It's not so much the size of your cartridge, the size of your bullet, the velocity of that bullet, the energy of that bullet when it hits. It's where you put that bullet. And most of us know that. And relatively small light bullets can do the job, which will bring us to some of the folks in here who went down the scale pretty amazingly far in small cartridges. We will get to those. Let's finish off Zumbo's list. 270 Winchester was kind of the bottom for him, and it is for a lot of folks. I've taken elk with a 270 Winchester just fine. I could not tell, and I don't think the elk could either, the difference between that hit and those that I'd done with a 300 Win Mag, a 7 Rem Mag, a 325 WSM, a 300 Short Ultra Magnum. That just all seem to get the same reaction out of the elk. So I can't fault anybody for using a 270 with the right bullet in the right place. Then Zumbo's 30-06, obviously, that was his long time, used it forever. 300 Win Mag, can't skip that one. And a 338 Win Mag. Now the 338 Win Mag's popped up twice here. You're going to see that one a lot. Here was one from someone I don't know, Brandon Maddox, writing for a website called Silencer Central. Obviously, they're selling suppressors. And he recommended the 7 Rem Mag, the 300 Weatherby Mag, the 30-06, the 35 Whalen, good choice, 300 Win Mag, obviously got to have that one in there, 375 H&H again. But then he goes to the 6.5 PRC, this little guy. Yeah, he did. And I can understand that. Does about the same thing a 270 does. It's just a 26 caliber bullet going about the same velocities as the 270, but at the same weight. You can get a 140 grain up to a 150 grain, so pretty close to the same performance. Then he jumped to the 375 Ruger, another good choice, and the 300 Remington Ultra Magnum, this big guy again. A little bit surprising with that 6.5, but if you thought that was small, wait till you see what's coming up. American Hunter Magazine had a list compiled by Eric Kahn. I don't know this gentleman either. He started off at the bottom with a 243 Winchester. Eric, more power to you, man. No guts, no glory. Go small or go home. This guy's not afraid to address reality, and that is there are a lot of folks who shoot a 243 at elk, and they do pretty well with them, because they're concentrating on that right bullet in the right place, shooting accurately. Now, what sounds to some folks like this is a stupid idea, because an elk is just too big for a little cartridge like that with a little bullet. I mean, we're talking a 100 grain bullet here, folks. But as I always say, I knew this guy with 13 one-shot kills on 6-point bull elk with a 243. So it obviously can be done. Is it optimum? I don't think so. Would I put it on my top 10 list? Sorry, Eric, I don't think so. But I'm glad you brought it up because it's an important consideration. Right bullet, right place can do the job. And honestly, folks, it is legal in many western states to use 22 caliber center fires for elk hunting, and people do it successfully. It's not to say it can be unsuccessful, but then I've seen plenty of unsuccessful shots with 7mm and 30 calibers and all sorts of other ones. Bullet placement, that's the key. Okay, so Eric's now working his way up and he jumps right up to that massive 6.5 Creedmoor. Yeah, once again, this is reality. There are so many people out here now taking elk with that 6.5 Creedmoor. And a young friend of mine did it a couple of years ago. If I remember right, his shot was 464 yards. One shot, down elk, 6-point bull. I mean, how can you argue with success like that? Now, I know if some of you are going to say, yeah, but what about all the ones that didn't go down and weren't recovered? I don't know. Once again, it can happen with any bullet, any cartridge, which is why with elk and animals of that size, when you get heavier bones, more muscle mass, you really have to make a perfect shot. And as a cover-up and insurance for not making the perfect shot, that's why we like to go to the Towsley style, heavier bullets, heavier cartridge, more punch. If you don't make the perfect shot, you have a better chance, or you should have a better chance of taking that animal. So even though that 6.5 is on Eric's list, I'm probably not putting it on mine. So then he goes to the 300 Win Mag, another good one. That is one of the most popular, if not the most popular elk cartridges out there. And when you ask people who elk hunt, what do you use? That one always is in the top 3. I think it's between that and the 338 Win Mag for which one is the most popular. And I think the 7mm Remington Magnum is in there too. So then Eric goes to the 30-06, good all around. Everybody's used it a million times. But then he goes to the 308 Winchester. Well, wait a minute, 30-06, if that's kind of borderline for some folks, why are you stepping down to the 308 Winchester? Once again, because so many people use it and successfully, and honestly, it will spit the same bullets as the 30-06, only about 100 feet per second more slowly with your muzzle velocity, and that's not a heck of a lot. So, yeah, it doesn't have quite the punch, but really, punch doesn't kill. It's the right bullet reaching the vital organs and disrupting them to cause hemorrhaging. That's what takes the animal. So can the 308 do the job? Yeah. Would I pick it for my top 10? No. Then he goes to the 280 Ackley Improved, which is a pretty good idea because that one is right up there with the 7-rem mag. If the 7-rem mag can do it, you're shooting the same bullets with that 280 Ackley Improved, maybe 50 to 100 feet per second more slowly again. Not a big deal. The elk aren't going to notice it. I've taken elk with that 280 AI. They didn't like it one bit. I ate them. But if you're going with the 7s like that and you say, well, the 7-rem mag is great because it's been around forever and elk hunters have used it for a long time and the bullets today are better than ever, then you've got to go to some of the others like the 28 Nosler because obviously it's bigger, it's more powerful. So why wouldn't these people be putting that on their list? The only reason I can think of is that maybe there's more recoil than some folks would like. But golly, there's a heck of a lot of recoil in that than there is in the 338 Win Mag or the 375 H&H Magnum. But I haven't found this one on anyone's list yet. And then there's the Rum. Once again, we're back to the Remington Ultra Magnum. That's about as big as your Magnums are going to get. Necking it down to 7mm, getting pretty small on your diameter of your bullet there. But boy, does it drive that bullet fast. So if the 7-rem mag can do it, the Rum can do it in spades. Got to throw those onto your list. But then your top 10 is starting to stretch out into your top 20. So what else did Eric pick out? He's got the 280 Remington in there. Now, see, that's kind of funny to me. You got the 7mm, you got the 280 AI, and then you step down to the 280. I don't know, pick one or the other. And that gets to a point I'm going to bring up about my selection and how I did it. I didn't quite play the game the way most folks seem to be playing it. Eric threw in the 270 Winchester, the 338 Win Mag, and the 7-rem mag. So even though he had the 280 AI, the 280 rem, he threw in the 7-rem mag. He's getting a little redundant in my estimation. But can't argue that any of them aren't going to do the job for elk. Now, let's go to the Spomer list. My tack, the difference that I did on these is rather than saying this is the best cartridge, the 300 or the 30-06 or the 338 Win Mag and all, I picked one cartridge from each caliber group. So I decided what is the lightest or the narrowest caliber I want to shoot at an elk. I didn't go to 243. I didn't go to 6.5, but I did drop down to 270. And then I picked the 270 Winchester. Now, in 270 Winchester, why wouldn't a guy say, okay, then 270 Weatherby Magnum? Bigger, faster, maybe 200, 300 feet per second faster with the same bullets. You've got to go there. But how many people have one? How many people can afford one? I don't know. It just seemed like the 270 is ubiquitous, so you're going to have to go with that as at least the most popular of the 27s, if not the most effective on elk. Once again, we're balancing things out here. And then you got the 27 Nosler now. So in every caliber category, you've got more options than the cartridge that we writers are picking as the best. So what I did with the 27, I said 270 Winchester, but you can also pick, and then I mentioned several of the 270s, like the 270 WSM. You like a short action? That's a little bit lighter. Things like that to consider. Then I went to the 7s and picked the 7-rem mag, like most folks do, just because it is so popular and proven on elk, but I know darn well the bigger 7s are going to do the job a little bit better. So I listed some of those and said, guys, if you want, pick them. If you can take more recoil, you want a heavier rifle, a longer action with the rum, or whatever you want can be done. Don't just think that for some magical reason the 7-rem mag is the best of the 7s for elk. Then I went to the 300s. I had to go with the 300 Win mag. I know the 300 Weatherby mag is more powerful, will do a better job on elk. And then you go to the rest of the way up on the 300 scale. Oh my goodness, there are so many of them. From 300 WSM for the short lights once again, but then you go to the 300 Rum, you got the 30 Nosler, you've got the 3378 Weatherby Magnum. I mean, if it's a 30, you're probably going to be good, because the 30 caliber is kind of the middle of the road for a big animal like that. It's just right in the ballpark. It's just that the Winchester Magnum is once again so available. So many rifles have been made for it. So many manufacturers load ammunition for it with so many bullet choices that you really can't go wrong with it. You might be struggling to find ammunition for a 30 Nosler or even the 300 Rum, but not the 300 Win mag. It's just kind of, once again, universal. Good reason to pick it. That was my pick in the 300s. But no fault, no bad on you if you pick one of the other 30. The elk aren't going to really notice the difference. So then I go up to the 338 Win mag, and I think I would have to agree with most of us. We seem to all have a consensus here that it's the best 338 of the bunch, and it's probably the most effective cartridge for elk, all things considered. Not too much recoil, a little more than the 300 mag, but you can go up to a 250 grain bullet in it, and it's just proven over and over again to be deadly on elk. Now, you can make some arguments, and darn good ones, that the right bullet from that 300 Win mag can actually put more energy on an elk than that 338. But you've got to use the very best bullet, and it has to be a high BC bullet driven really fast. But it can be done because the 30 calibers up to about 250 grains are going to have a higher BC than the 338. I mean, you say you've got a 210 high BC bullet in a 30, it's going to have a higher SD than probably a 220 grain bullet, maybe even a 250 grain bullet in the 338s. And SD predicts penetration potential. All things else being equal on those bullets, the one that's narrower is going to have a higher sectional density in that weight category and probably penetrate better. But I don't think you're going to have any penetration problems with a 30 mag of any kind or a 338 mag of any kind. So I don't think I'd stress too much about that. Just know that most elk hunters, guides and outfitters included, think the 338 Winchester Magnum is just like the best all around for elk. Then I went down to good old 30-06 because you just can't throw that one out. Talk about a ubiquitous, everyone has one kind of a cartridge that's been around the block 40 times. That is it. Might not be the world's greatest earth-shaking cartridge, but it sure does the job, and it is easy to find ammunition for. Everything I said about the 300 Win mag applies to the 30-06 as far as ammo availability and affordability. And then finally, what else did I pick here? I already mentioned the 270. I already did that one. So the guys that are picking the 6.5s, though, always surprised me that they didn't mention this 264 Win mag. Why not? That's going to be more powerful than the PRC. It's certainly the Creedmoor. And then you get the new Weatherby, that RPM. That's a pretty nifty little cartridge. So why didn't they pick those instead of that Creedmoor? And then there's that 26 Nosler. I don't know, probably the Nosler because it's burning your throats out pretty quickly. But again, if you're not target shooting with it and you're just using it for hunting, I think you're going to be fine. You can take a lot of animals before you burn the throat out using a big horse like that. So those are pretty good options in the 6.5s. Any way you slice it, guys, the honest answer is there is no best elk cartridge. There is no best top 5, top 10. It varies. A lot of cartridges can fit into those categories. I think the critical thing is for each of us to consider what that cartridge can do. It's better to look at the ballistics and realize whether or not you like a particular cartridge. Does it really throw the heavier bullet faster than the next one in line? And what's the recoil? Can you handle it? All of those things have to be considered, but don't doubt for a minute that even down to that 243, you can't take an elk if you do your job and choose the right bullet. Put it in the right place, make sensible shots, be a better hunter. You can take elk with any of them. You don't need the 375 H&H, but I'll tell you what, I can't argue against the 416 Remington Magnum either. Maybe we'll go there next time. The best 40 calibers and larger for elk. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Weigh in with your favorite for elk. Let us know what works well for you and what doesn't work very well for you. Maybe we will compile a list of those and do another episode on Ron Spomer Outdoors. Thanks for watching. Hunt honest and shoot straight.